Okay, so looking at the final build, we have a add to basket button on the product component. So when we click on it, it dispatches all of the product data, and then we can access that information in our checkout page. So we first of all need to create this button. So going back into our code here, if we go into the product component and under info, I want to create a new function called add to basket button. This will be a new component. So this component will take in the following props. So if we bring them in also, so now we need to create this component. So if we go in our components folder and create a new folder in here called add to basket button, like so, and press enter, we now need to create the index.tsx for this and also rafce and paste in the add to basket button like so. And we just need to import this now. And as you can see, it will be receiving the props. So we just need to copy these, paste that in here. So now if we save all, we now see add to basket button being rendered on each individual product here. So now if we go into our global styles or our shared styles, we are exporting this Amazon button. So what I'm going to do is use this Amazon button in here, and we also need to import that. And then inside the Amazon button, we're just going to have add to basket like so, and now save. And now as you can see, the styles have imported from add to basket. One further thing we need to do is we need to create the props for this. So we could simply just copy the product props here and render them in the add to basket button like so. And what you could also do is create its own individual type in the types folder, but we will just keep it like this for now. So now if I save all, that is all set up and working correctly. So now what we need to do is we need to create the cart reducer. So we will do that next. So if we go into our lib folder in our store and index.ts, so in here now, to extend our reducers, all we need to do is simply just copy this and create a new reducer. So this will be cart equal to cart reducer. Now we need to create this reducer. So like this, so cart reducer is what we will call it. So in our reducers folder, all we need to do is create cart reducer.ts like so, and then simply import this in. First of all, we need to create this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my cart reducer and explain what's going on. So this one is larger than the user reducer file. So what we need to do is, first of all, there's a few errors. So we need to have the cart type. So if we create the cart type, so in my types folder, I'm going to create a new file in here named cart.ts and paste in my cart type. So this will take in a ID, title, image, price, and rating. So now all we need to do is go through the code. So if I save all, we just need to import this now as we have covered the file. And in my cart reducer, if we start from the top, so initially what happens is we have a interface for the cart type, which is the initial state. So the initial state will be an array of items. At the minute it is empty, and then when we add to the array, we have array of objects with certain products on there, and they will be equal to the cart type. So if we go into here, that will take in an ID, title, image, price, and rating. If we scroll down to the cart slice, this name is now cart instead of user. We pass in the initial state, as you can see. Create slice will infer the state type from the initial state argument, meaning that this state is coming from here. We have two actions in our reducer, which is the add to cart functionality and the remove from cart functionality. So first of all, the add to cart functionality takes in a payload action of the cart type, meaning that it will take in the cart type itself. So it will take in a ID, title, image, price, and rating. So that's what we need to pass in when we click the add to basket button. So going back in here, what will happen is it will create a new array, spread in what is in the array. So say for example, we have the unisex long sleeve tee and the snapback already in. It will add that to the array, and then we will also add the action.payload. So the new product, so say for example, we was adding the mug, it will add that also. So we will have the 1, 2, and 3 products in there. So the add to cart functionality is quite simple. We create a new array each time when we add a product. The remove from cart functionality is here. So essentially, we are creating a new basket which spreads the items that we have in already. So initially, the items we might have is a snapback and a mug, for example, and then we create the new basket. What we want to do then is find index of the first item in the basket. So we're using a bit of JavaScript here to find the index. So if state.items, so the state.items is this here. So if the state.items find index, so if the item.id is equal to the action.payload.id, so for example, the snapback will have its own ID. So if I clicked add to basket in here, it will add the basket, which is correct. But if we want to remove the item from the basket and we click remove from item from the basket, it will have a payload in there. So the ID will equal the ID that we're passing in the payload, and it will compare it to the ID that is in the array of items already. So this new basket here. And then if the index is not equal to -1, so meaning if it is not equal to false, which means it is true, then we want to get the new basket array and we want to splice it out. So from the index, we want to take off 1, and then we want to return state.items equal to the new basket. So essentially, we are amending the new basket, taking off the index that we have clicked on, if there is one, and then we are passing and returning the new state.items as the new basket. Otherwise, we want to do a console warn of can't remove product as it's not in the basket because there isn't an index in there. So them are the two actions, add to cart and remove from cart. All we need to do now is export them, which we are doing. So now we can access them and dispatch or use our use app dispatch hook that we defined earlier on. And then we can add to cart and remove to cart. There are a few selectors that we want to get access to. So the first one is select items, which means we get access to all of the items in the cart. So if there are multiple items in here, we can get access to them with the select items selector. If we want access to the count or the quantity of items in the items array, then all we need to do is get state.cart.item.length, which returns the length of the array, i.e. the quantity of products that we have. And then finally, what we want to do is get the cart total or the total price of all of the products in the checkout. So this is done by using the reduce function in JavaScript. So we get the total amount, which is equal to state.cart.items.reduce. This takes in the total and the item, and all we want to do is each time there is an item, we just want to add the price to the total and then also return the total amount. And then finally, we just export this cart slice dot reducer. So now this cart reducer is accessible globally on the application. So what we now need to do is go back into our add to basket function. So if we go back in here, and now when we click this Amazon button, we want to render a function. So on click is equal to a function that we are calling called add to basket. And we need to create this function now. So add to basket like so. And we want to pass in the event also. And just before the return, we want to do const add to basket, which is here. And this is going to be a mouse event. And GitHub Copilot is suggesting something for me, but this is using local storage, so we don't need to use that. So first of all, what I want to do is do e.prevent default, which is correct. I'm going to delete this because we don't need this. And then now what I want to do is I want to dispatch. So we need to declare this above. So const dispatch is equal to use app dispatch. And we need to import that from store/hooks. So dispatch, and the action we want to dispatch is in our cart reducer of add to cart. So essentially the add to cart takes in an action.payload. So we need to pass in the data that we want to add to our cart. So in here, add to cart, which is being imported in, and this is going to take in an object. So essentially we could just pass this in. So all of the data here. So this is a shorthand method. What you would normally do is give it a key and a value. So ID will be equal to ID, title will be equal to title, and so on. But we can just keep it as this because the key and the value are the same. So now if I save, what I want to do is I want to go on inspect. And if I go into my Redux store, as you can see now, we have a user slice here, and we also have a cart slice. So at the minute, the cart slice is empty because there is no items in the basket or in the cart. So if I clicked the long sleeve tee, I would expect this item to now add to the basket. So if I clicked here, something has happened. So the action of add to cart has happened. So if I click here and expand my items, as you can see now, the item of unisex long sleeve tee has added to my basket along with the image and the price and the rating. If I was to add another, it also adds again, and we have an array of 2 items in here. So the quantity now will be 2. And now what we can do is we can now access this data in our checkout page. So the next thing what we will do is we will configure the checkout page and we will handle that next.